All right, so we'll just continue with the video now. Sorry, with the PPT now. All right, we'll continue with the PPT now. So, first part, in terms of the introduction, how do we shop, right? So just to give an idea, think about how you would typically shop in an offline store, right? You go to an offline store, you typically ask the shop keeper, let's say you've gone out to buy a couple of t-shirts, right? You'll ask him, show me a couple of t-shirts. He'll show you 4 or 5 different products, and more often than not, we do end up buying from the products that this guy has shown, right? The same kind of thing happens out here in Flipkart as well. When someone is searching for a particular product, the platform will show up a couple of listings which pertain to that search. What PLA does basically is enables you to be a part of those top listings that is being showcased to the customer, and hence increases the chance that the customer will end up buying that particular product, right? In short, this is what PLA is for you. Now, how does it work? How do you pay for the ads? Well, this is a click, pay-per-click basis. So there's a particular CPC or CPX as we call it, which is a cost per click or a cost per action, right? Which is something that you decide. So there's a base CPC on top of which you can bid any amount. And based on that particular cost, so for each click, for example, the example that we have out here, if the base CPX is 1.11, right? And the CPX paid by the seller is 1.5, and you've got 1,000 clicks, so the ad spend becomes 1,000 multiplied by 1.5, which is 1,500. It's as simple as that, right? Now, so again, reiterating how product listing ads helps you. It serves, as we said, the product in the top consideration set for that customer, and hence the highest intent for the purchase, increasing your chance to stand out of the competition. Okay. This is typically how the product listing ads appear. This is a screenshot of our desktop. This is more so so just to confirm to you sellers, this initial part of the presentation is more about the new sellers who are not aware that much about PLA. For sellers who are already quite familiar with PLA, please bear with us for the initial couple of slides. We'll get into the details pretty soon. So getting back to the presentation, this is a snapshot of how PLA appears on desktop. Similar fashion for both mobile app as well as mobile M site. Right. So you see this ad out here. So this basically merges with your organic content. For an example, this is a search for kurtis. Among all the kurtis, there are certain slots which are reserved for the PLA ads, which appears with a small ad symbol like out here. Right. So this is basically how your PLA ads appear. Couple of factors which influence the rank where the ad comes in. One is obviously the CPX bid that you're putting in, the overall conversion rate of that product, the CTR that we call the click-through ratio, which basically means out of the customers who have seen that product, how many of them have ended up clicking and getting onto the product page of that product, right? So which basically shows the customer intent. It's a pre-sales intent of the customer. So that's one of the points. Returns for that particular seller, and then obviously SLA. Right? These are the things which usually influence the ranking of the ad, right? Okay. So while all the other factors, right, among the 5 factors, from the 2nd till the 5th factor, these are basically dependent on the product and the seller. The CPX bid is something which is an inorganic factor, which is something that you can play with to increase or decrease the visibility of that product. That's the ranking in the PLA ads. So typically, what we have seen is there are 3 kind of cases why a seller wants to do PLA. First, objective is to increase the overall sales. Second, to give early push to the new arrivals. And the third, to give more visibility to the slow moving products, right? Now, this is pretty easy to understand, honestly. Why are we showing this particular slide? The point is, to understand the objective of a particular campaign is the very basis of how the campaign is designed and then how it performs, right? One of the mistakes that a seller typically does is clubs everything together into a single campaign. So to explain, for example, you have some of your products which are quite, something in which you want to increase your sales, which are good converting products. There are some which are your slow moving, some which are your new products, and you keep all of them in the same campaign. Now that typically is a recipe for failure. So what happens is different cluster of products will have different kind of requirements. While the slow moving products will have more of a visibility requirement, and so goes for the new arrivals. When we're talking about increasing sales, the objective out there is typically ROI, or increasing the number of units or the revenue that you get out of that campaign. Where visibility, I mean, they might already be getting a certain amount of visibility, not necessarily in the first or the second page, but they have been there for some time and they have a particular history. The CTR and the conversions that we're talking about, they have received some amount of visibility in the past, so they've got a particular history in the system. So these kind of products need to be, first of all, segregated into different kind of campaigns. This is the main idea, right? So in terms of steps, pretty simple. First part, as we discussed, is the intent of the campaign, right? You select your products as per the intent, you construct the campaign as per that intent. We'll be getting into that, how you construct campaigns for each of those intents. You run the campaign. Most important, analyze the performance and then take corrective actions. This is a very important point, which we'll also be covering in this particular presentation, and hence growing the overall business. So first part, campaign creation. Again, the first couple of slides is for the new sellers, or sellers who are new to PLA, right? Very simple process: selection of your products, setting up of your budget, and then making the payment. Pretty simple process that you can do on yourself.
So please do let me know if you're able to hear my voice. I can see a lot of issues are there in case we have tried all the technical things from our end. Please type yes if you're able to go ahead and hear my voice properly so that we can proceed further. So we'll try to be as loud as possible, requesting your patience. I can see one or two people are not able to hear me, so please do let me know that what can be done. Thank you.
Okay, hope this is better. We'll proceed then. Right. Now with the campaign creation flow. Very simple, in fact. This is a self-serve process. While we do have the slides, and this is something you can refer back to at any time, what I will try to do is to show you the campaign creation process on a live dashboard, which should be helpful to you. It's pretty simple. I am onto a live dashboard and I'm onto the seller advertising tab, right? You can also get onto the advertising tab through the growth opportunities, and you will see an advertising tab out here. It's the same stuff. First part, create campaign, right? Once you get into creating campaigns, the first part is to give a campaign name. So I'll just keep it as test for the time being. Next, you can upload the listings, right? For uploading, this part is about the selection of the listings. We're just talking about the operations. How do we select listings? There are two options. One is manual and the other is upload CSV file. I'll just take you through the manual part once. Upload CSV file, also post that. In the manual, so you will see out here in the manual process, you will see all the products that are listed against your seller account below, right? You can select them individually, obviously. However, we also have a couple of filters which might make your life easier out here. First part is the category filter, right? So depending on which category you're playing at, for example, let us an example. Let's say we say that this is in the home furnishing category. Now, with the small arrows out here, you can drill down even further, right? So you can get onto the subcategories or the vertical level. So for example, you say, I want to do it on the bed sheets, right? So once you select this and you apply, what will happen is automatically only the bed sheets, which is out there in your portfolio, will show up. And then you can just do a text of bed sheets. I think this is not probably the best example. The seller tends to have only one bed sheet. But anyway, if you have multiple products, you can just select this box and all of your products will get selected, which apply to this criteria. So the first thing that we saw was the category part that we talked about. I'll just get back to this. Let's reset this, right? Second, you might want to choose your products depending on the selling price. Say, for example, I would like to advertise my products which are greater than 500, right? So I can select that, or I say, okay, between a 500 to 1000 is the range that I want to advertise. Again, same process, right? Just select the range and then apply. Accordingly, all the products which fall within this criteria will come on. Third is a stock count. Now, again, this is one of the typical reasons that we have seen from sellers, that I want to advertise the products which are highest in stock with me. Again, you can select the range of the minimum and the maximum stock of the products, and then the same action, right? Not getting into details of that one. Last but not the least, date added. Now, why have we put in this date added filter out here? You remember, among the three kind of campaigns that we're talking about, one of the factors, which is something that we have seen across all sellers, is to advertise the newly launched products. So one of the methods of doing that is, for example, you know that your newly launched products, you have launched in somewhere, let's say from the 20th of September, say, right? Until I put in, say, whatever, about the 25th. Accordingly, again, you can select those products within those period, whichever has been launched, right? This is about the help for the manual selection. The upload CSV. So we are still into how we are selecting the listings. First part, we talked about the manual selection, how you can do that. Next part is about the upload CSV option. By the way, I think something that I need to show you once. On manual selection, I did say that you can just click out here and all of your products will get selected. In case you do not want to advertise some of them, you can just deselect individual products, right? The rest of your selection will hold. So that can, again, lead to the ease of selecting your products. One new feature which has been added out here before we move on to the upload CSV file is this search by SKU ID, right? I'll be talking about this later on in the slide as well. This is one of the new features that we have launched in the last couple of weeks. You can directly put in the SKU ID of your product and only that particular product will come out here. Often we understand that FSN or LID is a very Flipkart specific thing and probably will recognize your product's by SKU ID, and hence there's a feature for you out there. Moving on to the next part, which is the upload CSV. By the way, friends, in case you think I'm moving a bit too fast, do let me know in the question section. Then probably I'll spend some more time out there. We actually have a lot of things to cover, and then hence probably my pace. But do let me know if I need to be slower, right? Okay. Now for the upload CSV part, pretty simple. You just select this. So by default, this is the screen that you will see, right? Which will be in a manual selection. You can just click out here on upload CSV. This is what you get. You download a template. I'll also show you what kind of how the template looks like. Right. Now, this is the template that you'll get. You'll just have to add. So this is quite simple. You'll see this instruction out here as well, right? Don't edit the first two rows, just remember that, and give the listing IDs from the third one per line. So you'll just add the listing IDs out here, one after the other, and then going back, you can just upload this, right, out here, that particular file, and it will take up the products that you have just put in this particular file, right? For the time being, what I'll do is I'll just select some of the products which is already selected and just move on to the next step and show you how till the end of the process. Right. The next step is for budgeting, and this is a very crucial step. It's not only budgeting, but a couple of very important things for the campaign. First and foremost, there are two kind of campaigns that you can create here on PLA. Right? The first part is a CPC driven campaign, which is usually what you have across any of the competition websites or across the whole of the ad world, which we talked about. The second part is a smart ROI campaign. For the time being, I'm just taking you through the CPC campaign. Smart ROI campaign is something we'll tackle at the end of this PPT. This is a very new feature that we have with us, and it's quite extraordinary in the way that it is one of the unique things that we have on the ads ecosystem as a whole. Uh, in fact, not many companies do have such a solution, but we'll talk about this a bit later on. We'll just proceed with the CPC part for the time being. First, you can select the campaign duration. By default, you will see today's date and timestamp on the start of the campaign. However, you can always select some date in the future, right? So let's say now I want to get onto October. Sorry, my mistake. Okay, say I want to get onto October, and let's say I want to start something from the 5th of October. You can always do that, right? You can also select the time when you want to start off the campaign. So let's say I want to start it off from 6 o'clock, maybe, right? Say 6:54, something like that, right? So you can always select that time. Next, you can give an end date and timestamp. By default, there's a button, there's a tick box out here, which is the till budget extends, right? We do recommend to go for the till budget ends option. However, you can always deselect and similarly select an end date and time for your campaign, right? I'll just keep this on for the time being. Next, you enter the campaign budget. Our minimum criteria for budget is 1,000, whatever amount you can put in. So say, for example, I put in a 5,000 for this particular campaign. You can either ask it to equally divide this budget for days. Now, this equally divide option will only work when you give an end date and time. Do remember that, okay? And then you can ask it to be equally divided. For example, let's you say that from the 5th of October, you want to run this till the 15th of October, and then say that, for this 10 days, you want to equally divide this budget. That basically means this 5,000 will become 500 rupee budget for each day, right? That's the meaning. Again, a word of caution, for the festive period, we recommend to keep it till budget ends. One, you can also put an end date. However, we do recommend not to go for an equally divide option. The reason for that is the traffic is not even across the days, right? You suddenly have a very high surge traffic, let's say on the first day of the sale or across the sale days, right? The traffic is much higher than any other BAU day, right? What happens if you put an equally divide option is, understand that the example that we're talking about, right? If this campaign, you run it for 10 days and you say equally divide, per day budget is only 500, right? Let's say BBD begins, right? There's a rush of traffic right at the midnight when the BBD offers are out and BBD has started. It might so happen that your 500, which is allocated for that particular day, is exhausted, let's say by 8 or 9 a.m. in the morning itself. Then, for the rest of the day, when you've got pretty high intent traffic, your campaign does not run. Because since you have selected equally divide per day, there's no more budget to be burned for that day, right? It will again come in live the next day. So you might lose out on potential high intent traffic if you try that. So our suggestion, at least for the sales days, is try to keep it open and do not keep it as equally divide budget for all days, right? Next is the CPX part. Now, a couple of sellers, even the old sellers, have had a couple of confusion regarding this. So let me clear this. First part is the boost CPX. Now, by default, you will see in different ad groups that products that I have selected. For example, the products that I had selected, out of that, some of them, so one was in home furnishing, handsets, so on and so forth, right? So you'll have a CPX which by default comes out here. This is the base CPX for that particular ad group, right? Below that, you have a winning bid range. So what this winning bid range shows you is that, and this is a very real-time thing which basically changes every day. So this gives you the winning bid range of the previous day, in fact. So it shows you that in this particular category, which is home furnishing, right? Let's say I believe this would be a bed sheet. In that particular category, the sellers, the ads which were winning the bids, right, which were coming on the higher slots, they were basically bidding in this particular range. While you can always put in the CPX of 1.11 to start with, this is something which is the winning bid. Now, in which kind of cases should we just remember the terms? So, in which kind of cases should we go with the base CPC? Where should we go at the lower level of the winning bid? Where for the higher level of the winning bid? Those kind of details we're coming into it later on in the other slides. Just remember the terms and understand the difference between them. So this is a base CPX, which is the minimum CPX that can go for that category. Winning bid range, this is the lowest range, and this is the highest range. Right? We'll get back to them pretty shortly. Campaign budget, now this is an optional thing, honestly. So you have put in 5,000 for the campaign, right? Let us suppose there are only these two ad groups or whatever. You can say that out of this 5,000, let us say that you burn only maybe 1,000 out here, right? And the rest of it can be distributed across the other ones as it see fits. You can choose that. What that means is once 1,000 is exhausted in home furnishing, this particular part, this products which is there in this ad group, their ads will not serve, right? Rest of the products will serve. So this can be used only in case where you want to control the spend in certain portions of that campaign. So you say for this ad group, I do not want to spend beyond 1,000, say, and you can spend more in the others. Or you might have an idea that, I have selected the products, I want maximum visibility for them, and I want sales out of all of them. So I do not need to set a budget limit for any of them, which is also possible. As I said, this is optional. Last part, exclude keywords, right? Exclude keywords again is a relatively new feature. However, this has been on for over the last 5 to 6 months. In case you want your campaign to not show up in certain searches, then you can use this feature. Again, this is optional. Say, for example, this is, let us suppose that this is a bed sheet, right? And you say that, I know from my experience, like I've been advertising elsewhere, and I understand that my products don't tend to give me a good amount of conversion and ROI when people who are searching for, let's say, I don't know, premium bed sheets tend to look at this product, for example, right? Then what you can do is you can just put in premium bed sheet out here. And what will happen? This ad will not show up when customers are searching for premium bed sheet. Got it? So that's how basically the exclude keyword function works. For PLA in Flipkart, just to give you a complete idea of this, we pick up the keywords automatically from the catalog file of the product, right? So all the details that you fill in for a product, be it it's in its description or its features or any other field in the catalog file, we pick up all those signals, and accordingly, whenever the customer is searching or browsing through those relevant areas, we show the ad, right? If you put in some exclude keywords out here, what will happen is the product will not show in those keywords. Got it? So that's basically the use of this exclude keywords. So yeah, one point that I missed out in between, sorry for that, is the boost CPX part, right? So for example, out here, the base CPX is 1.11. You say, no, you know what, I want to run it at 1.2. You can always edit this out here directly. Or what you can do is you can click out here and say that, look, this was 1.1. I want to increase this by 10%. Once you do that, every CPX, right? I mean, if you have multiple ad groups out here, rather than punching in for each of them, you can just do something like that out here. I can say a 10% or maybe let's say a 20%, and you will see all the CPX for all of this ad groups getting increased by 10 or 20% above the base CPX. Got it? So let me do that once again. So this is what was normal, right? Let's look at the handsets part. This was 0.3, right? The moment I say 10%, it becomes 0.33. Understood? Another example, let's say I say 100%, that 0.3 becomes 0.6. That's the only difference. So this is not a mandatory thing to do. You can either do this to manage the CPX across all the ad groups if you have multiple ad groups in that campaign, or you can just simply punch it in, right? So rather than 0.6, you can just say, okay, I want to do it at 0.5. Simple as that. Yeah. Next step is basically your payment step, where you'll be shown that this is the net payment that we are talking about, and hence what is the effective budget. So the effective budget that we show out here is minus the tax part, right? A couple of sellers had also had concern regarding this, so let me just stress onto this. What we are showing, so you know that on any services there's an 18% GST, right? So what we show is that if you are to exhaust this complete budget, what is the net amount which will be going into the clicks directly? So minus the tax part completely. However, when, or let's say the campaign you pause or abort in between. So let's say you abort the campaign after it has exhausted, let's say some 2000 rupees, right? What happens then? Does that mean that all of these GST that I've taken out here in this calculation that I keep with myself? No. Whatever clicks you consume on that, whatever budget spent has happened, 18% GST is what is charged. Rest of the money comes back to you on your wallet, right? So in that case, let's say you exhaust only, let's say 2000 rupees, 18% of 2000 is the GST which will be charged out here, not this total GST of around close to about 800, right? Which is showing out here. This is an estimation and not saying that this is the money that is deducted out of here. Okay, just to clarify this point. So yeah, at this payment point, you just pay and create the campaign, which for the time being I'm avoiding. Okay, so we'll get back to our deck once again. A couple of slides that we had out here, I'm just going through them. You can always refer back to these later on. We have already gone through them on our live dashboard. Okay, next part, FSN selection. We'll be going through the manual part. The CSV file is quite easy to understand. So let's get into this part. How do I select the FSNs? This is one of the most important parts to achieve the goal that you have set for yourself for the campaign. So regarding FSNs, first thing that we had discussed is you have to be very clear about what is the goal of the campaign, right? Is it that I have already got certain products, they're selling to a certain extent, but I want to increase my overall sales, right? Or I have got new products and I want to advertise them more because I want to give them added visibility. Or I've got products that are extremely slow moving. They've been lying in my inventory. I've not been able to sell them because they're not getting enough visibility. And hence I want to give them more visibility, right? So that first part remains. This is the second stage of that, where we'll be selecting the FSNs on those grounds, right? Okay, this is an important set, okay? In the selection of FSNs, I think one of the parts that I didn't show you in that live dashboard, but you have this out here, is there's something called a recommended set of FSNs, which Flipkart recommends to you, which you can directly get onto and create a campaign, right? Which is pretty straightforward and simple. What we are talking about here is the manual selection of FSNs. Okay, this is where you use your data, understand which kind of products you want to advertise, why, and hence create separate campaigns for them. So pay a bit of attention out here. This is a very important part. What we recommend is to go through this. You have the growth tab, right, in your dashboard. You get onto the performance overview. Under that, growth, you will find a search traffic report. Okay, once you click onto this search traffic report, you'll get a download option at the very top of the page. Click on that download and you'll get an Excel file. Okay, what this file has, this is basically last 7 days, so rolling 7 days data for all your products, what kind of product page views they have got, and what kind of units they have sold. Okay, this data, by the way, is not ads data. This is your organic data. So what is happening as of today, right, at your complete portfolio. Now this is important. The reason being, and why we are asking for this traffic report to see, I understand that for almost all sellers, you'll be pretty familiar with these two reports, which is the sales in rupees and the sales in units, right? More often than not, when we talk to sellers regarding the first part, you remember among the segments that we talked about, that why, what are the main intents of creating campaigns? I think one of the key things is I want to increase my sales. And what typically sellers tend to do is that they invest on their top selling products. Now, what the point that we are making out here is there's a basic difference between a top selling product and a top converting product. The difference is A top selling product will probably be giving you the maximum number of units. And I'm sure all of the sellers are pretty aware which are their top sellers, right? But that does not mean that that is the best product to be advertised. In fact, the best product that you need to advertise to get the maximum sales or ROI out of it is the top converting product. Let me just explain a little bit. What is conversion basically? Conversion, as you see out here, is basically units sold by PPV. PPV, for people who are not familiar with this term, is product page view. So product page view is when the customer is clicking on your product and gets into the product description and all that, right? And units sold on top of that. This is what is conversion is, right? This basically gives you the potential of a product. That is, if I give visibility to this product, if more number of people are coming and seeing this product, what are the chances that people are going to buy this, which will eventually result in your sales, right? So remember this, in PLA, what you're basically buying is a product page view, right? Because you're paying per click, and a click is basically when the customer is landing onto the product page. And what you're trying to get out of it is the unit sold. So that is why this conversion data is very, very important. So what you do is, once you get onto this file, you check out products, and against each of the products, so you put up a pivot on them first. So just follow these steps as we have said, just put a pivot on them, get these two data, which is the product page view and the unit sold on the columns part against each of the product, calculate the conversion for them. Now put a filter on PPV, which is the product page view, and the conversion rate, which will show in the next slides how to do that. And then decide on which products you need to select. Okay. Typically, this is what your data set is going to look like. You'll have the product link, or the product that I'm talking about, the unit sold PPV, and then the conversion rate. So just as an example, we have put in, let's say if the product sells some 8 units out of 1,000 PPVs, its conversion is about 0.8%, yeah, stuff like that. Now, what you do out here is, first, so there can be different kind of intent, right? So if optimum ROI is what you're looking for, that is maximum amount of sales out of that campaign, what you should do is you should only check the products which are shortlisted. Now, what do you mean by shortlisted? You can take the minimum conversion rate cutoff and be more stringent on the high ROI. So let me just skip onto the next slide once and then get back to this one, just to explain this to you. So you see what we have out here is a bit of a table for your guidance. We have put it across some of the major super categories that we have out here. What is the minimum conversion rate that you should take? So this is basically like the average conversion rate for the category, right? And the minimum PPV that you need to look at. Now remember that the number of days for this data set that we are talking about is only about 7 days, right? So in 7 days, which is why you'll see that in certain cases, we're also saying to take a minimum PPV of 50. See, ideally, I would never ask you to take less than 100 PPVs to be sure. Now, why do we say that? Okay, just to elaborate on this. I have got the products, I've got the conversion rates, I've got the amount of PPVs that they had in the last 1 week. Let's say a particular case, right? A product which had 10 PPVs. So 10 people came and checked out a product and one of them bought it. Your conversion rate will show as 10%, right? But does that mean that when you actually expand this product through visibility, let's say this PPVs become 10 to 100, does that mean 10 people are going to buy it? Not necessarily, right? The point is the number of PPV is the confidence level. So until and unless I've got a minimum number of PPVs, I cannot be confident that when I put it on PLA, it is going to give me the desired number of sales, or the conversions that I see out here is going to hold when I have higher number of PPVs, right? Which is why we recommend a minimum PPV check, right? So for each of these categories, at least check out the products which has higher than these many PPVs. First point. Second, this is the minimum conversion rate that we're talking about. So select the products which is higher than this conversion rate. So going back to the last slide, this is what we are talking about. For optimum ROI here, you select those products. So minimum PPV and at least that amount of conversion, right? And you can advertise those. If you want higher ROI, what you can do is you can become a little more stringent on the conversion rate. For example, let's say I'm saying that in men's clothing, if I'm talking about, 100 ppvs, yes, I have done. Now I'm checking at conversion of 1.25%, which is the average for the category. Now I say, you know what, I actually want more ROI out of it. Then what I can do is I can probably take a higher conversion rate cutoff. Let's say I take products which are higher than, let's say, 2% conversion rate or something like that, right? So that's for the optimum ROI. Alternatively, you can also use smart ROI, which is something I'll get into later on. Let that be. Next, increasing visibility, right? Now, check FSNs, which has less PPVs and run CPX campaigns for this. Now, this is a bit important. While we talked about the two kinds of campaigns, right? One is a smart ROI, the other is a CPX. We'll get into details on the smart ROI campaign, but do remember this and keep this in mind. When you're looking for visibility, right? So necessarily your slow moving products or your new products, right? Out there, it is always suggested to put it on CPX campaign. Basic difference between these two campaign types is the CPX is something which will give you higher visibility, right? A smart ROI is something which will optimize for ROI and not necessarily for visibility. Okay, so a smart ROI campaign can typically be slower because it might give you lower visibility. Now, since your ask is visibility, we're talking about that particular segment, it is suggested to go with the CPX type of campaign, right? Second point, try and ensure, and this stands for every campaign, in fact, ensure that a campaign runs for at least about 2 weeks. See, what happens is at any point of time, right, there are some thousands of sellers who are running campaigns on PLA with some lakhs of products, right? So for any product that you put on a PLA, it takes the first 2 to 3 days to get onto a particular run rate. Okay? If the campaign finishes off within that period, it does not achieve its optimum performance. And you might have a good ROI or a bad ROI, whatever, in those 2 to 3 days, but that does not optimally depict what is the potential of your products. If you run it only for about, at least about 2 weeks, you get to a particular stable run rate, which shows what is the actual potential of your products, right? Second part, we also advise to continue campaigns which are already doing good for you. How do we do that? We'll again get to it a bit later on. I know some of the old sellers will probably be wondering about this because budget getting over and then the campaigns getting over is one of the typical issues that we have had till date. However, we do have a solve for this. We'll be getting into it later on in the presentation. Right. Okay, I'm not getting into all these details. You guys can read this later on. Just a couple of pointers. When you select your products out here, right? So by this table, when you're selecting the products, ensure that you have a check on the PPVs, right? The example that we have kept out here. Let's say if there is one product A, which has got 1000 PPVs during this 1 week, and there's another product B, which has got 100 PPVs. If you put them in the same campaign, what will typically happen is, since A is a more popular product, or A is a product that most customers tend to search more, right? What will typically happen is that A is going to eat away bulk of your budget. And you'll find that B probably has not got enough amount of chances or visibility to create an impact through PLA. To avoid this, when you're doing the campaigns, right? So the first thing is we talked about, you check the PPVs, you check the conversion, then probably break that list into different buckets of PPV. Say anything within 100 to 500, right? Then maybe 2000 or something like that, but break it into different buckets. And don't keep products with very dissimilar sort of PPVs in the same bucket to avoid this particular issue, right? Second part, and this is relevant only for some of the lifestyle sellers, in case where you have got different sizes, right? It is advised that you select one size rather than advertising across all the sizes. I'll explain to you why. Say, for example, you're selling a shoe, right? And that comes into sizes 6 to 9, let us suppose. Now, remember when you're checking for a shoe on Flipkart, initially what you see is only the image, product title, price, and the rating. You do not see the size. Only when you click on it and get onto the page do you have the chance to see the size. And out there, you can also choose different sizes, right? Now, if you actually put in, say, shoe size 6, 7, 8, 9, what eventually happens is, and remember for Flipkart, all of the different size of products, these are all different FSNs, right? So you'll basically have four different ads running off, which basically looks the same to the customer. Because the customer doesn't see the size, right? All of these four different products will look the same when they look as an ad to the when they're seen as an ad to the customer. So you're basically just wasting your money that way, right? Placing your ad into four different places for the customer. And once he gets into it, he anyway have the chance to change the size. So for optimum usage, what we suggest is that you go with one size. However, be careful about the size that you choose, right? That is important. So choose the size that sells most, right? And possibly where you also have got the highest amount of inventory. Remember, if the inventory is over, and this is very critical because given the, festive season, I'm sure in other webinars and other communications, you would have heard about the inventory part, how important it is. Remember something, in PLA, what happens is the system checks the inventory every 30 minutes. If there is any product which is found to be out of stock, right, add stop for that product. After it comes back on stock, again, according to that 30 minutes check, if it comes back on stock, again, the ads will start off. So say, for example, you've got this particular example we are talking about, right? Shoes. So you've got this four size of shoes. You have put in size number 7, right, on the ad, and you suddenly run out of stock on 7. You've got stocks on the other products, right? Now, the customer was buying your other sizes because he was being guided by this particular ad. He was coming onto the product page and then selecting some other size as per his requirement and then buying the shoe. Now, the moment your number 7 size is over, the ad goes off. So be very careful that the size that you choose out here should be the one that sells the most and you have sufficient stock on that. Why sells the most? In case a customer is searching with a particular size, if you're selecting the product which sells the most, then the chances of its visibility increases. Got it, right? Okay. However, do remember this logic does not stand for color, right? While even for colors, right? So if we take another example, let's say if I'm selling t-shirts, right? I have a red t-shirt, a blue t-shirt, a yellow t-shirt, a green t-shirt, all of the same design, and I'm showcasing that to the customer. Understand the image of it is different for each of the colors. Though you can always get inside the product page and choose a different color, but the reaction that a customer will have to seeing a blue t-shirt being highlighted in the product listings versus, let's say, a red t-shirt can be very different. So probably for colors, do not use this logic. In sizes, please do. Okay, we've gone through this one. Tips for campaign creation. Okay, couple of primary checks that we need to do before we create the campaigns. We have talked about how we selected the products. These basically precede that. First, you know pretty well, product images, right? It needs to be in line. Second, prices needs to be competitive within category. It's important for your conversions. Third, customer reviews on the products. They should not be pretty bad, at least in the recent past. You know these things anyway. I'm just reiterating them once more for you. And that enough inventory exists in the styles which are being advertised. Okay, now we have created this table so that it can help you, in fact, to strategize while you're creating different campaigns. I do not want to read through each of these points. You can go through them later on when you check out this complete PPT. I'll just give you the logic behind each and probably pick up some small points here and there, right? So we divided our SKU sets into 3 buckets, right? Top converting, which is basically leading to highest sales. Maximum sales out of that campaign, new arrivals, and slow movers. By the way, sellers, I think there's something that I missed out there. When we are talking about the top converting ones, right? You remember how we checked out the PPVs and we checked out the conversion and all that. Please do ensure if you do have some product which is coming up anyway in the first 1 or 2 pages, do not include them in the campaigns, right? It doesn't make any sense. If the product is anyway getting its visibility, there's no point wasting money advertising it and putting a PLA also of the same product in the first 1 or 2 pages. Do please keep that check in mind when you're creating the campaigns. Anyway, coming back to this particular page. So top converting products, right? Out of which your chances of getting your sales is the highest, right? Now, if your objective out here is ROI, Then you can just create the smart ROI sort of campaigns and expect slightly higher than average ROI and go ahead with it. Now, if you're saying that no, I want to increase the visibility of this, which probably will be your intent when it comes to your sales season, because a lot of new high intent customers are coming in, and you want to increase its high visibility at a very fast rate, and hence get highest amount of sale within that short period. Remember, smart ROI, as we were talking about while we'll get into detail, is something which can slow down the campaign to a certain extent, right? So probably CPX would be a better mix when you're looking at optimizing on the traffic which is coming in at that point of time. So anyway, say for example, if you want to go for that visibility game, right? So you create CPX campaigns bidding at a minimum CPX. So in case of low visibility, then progressively increase the CPX. So what we are saying is, you remember we were talking about the base CPX and the lower range of the winning bid, the higher range of the winning bid when we went to the live dashboard. This is where this comes in. So you have selected your products, you know what is your objective. Now, what is the CPX that I put in out here? For something which is anyway top converting, you do not need to bid very high. You can probably start off near about to the base CPX, which is the default CPX which comes out there. Might slightly bump it up by a small percentage if you like, but not probably bid very high, which will not be required for this top converting sort of products. They can survive. But do remember, for new arrivals and slow movers, right, where visibility is a key concern. So they're not going to come up higher by their own historical performance, right? Out there, you'll have to bid higher, right? Okay. And then the other consideration in terms of budget and all, I'm not going through them. Please do read them later on, yeah, with your time. Okay, I'll just get on to the PLA reports and how do you read them. Couple of different matrices that we have in the reports and what they mean. So I guess many of all of you would be knowing what an ad view is. Ad view is basically when the customer is seeing the ad, right? Remember, seeing the ad and clicking on the ad is not the same thing, right? I might be browsing through kurtis and just see an ad of a kurti. Doesn't mean I'm clicking on it and checking out its product page. That clicking and checking on the product page is what we call an action, right? Action rate is basically a factor, which is your total actions divided by this total views. How that is used, we'll come to it a bit later on. Ad spend is pretty straight, simple to understand. Conversion rate, as we said, is basically your total orders divided by total actions. You remember the conversion rate we just talked about earlier? It was basically the number of units that you have sold divided by the PPV. In the PLA terminology, PPV is what is an action, correct? So accordingly, conversion rate is what is the number of orders you have got divided by the total action out of it. Orders is again easy to understand. Revenue, yes. ROI, pretty easy to understand, but I'll still iterate once more. I have seen a lot of sellers with a couple of confusion regarding this. ROI, the way that we calculate it is very simple. Total revenue that you have earned out of this campaign divided by the exhausted budget, right? Let's define each of them. Total revenue, when we say, right, we are saying when a customer has clicked on an ad, remember this, not clicked on your organic listings. He has clicked on your ad and then ended up buying something from you. That is the revenue we are talking about, and not your total revenue that you've earned on Flipkart. Okay, only when the customer clicks on that ad and then ends up buying something from you, that's the revenue out here. Exhausted budget is the amount of ad spend that has happened in that campaign, right? That is the ratio that we call as an ROI. Pretty straightforward. Now, I've heard a couple of concerns from some of the sellers regarding how does ROI and terminology that one of our competitors use, which is ACOS, how do they rank up? If you look at it, both of these are actually ratios. ACOS comes to you as a percentage. ROI is a factor. If you want to understand these two things, these are just the inverse of each other. So I'm not getting into calculation right now, but just as a rule of thumb for you to understand how this is, just for the sake of time, I'm not getting into this calculation. What is ACOS for a particular campaign is just inverse of its ROI. So if you say that my ROI is 5 in this particular campaign, that means that your ACOS is 20. Or let's say if your ACOS or any other way, let's say if you say that your ACOS is 7%, that means that the ROI is 100 divided by 7, which is around, yeah, whatever, I guess around 14.5, yeah. Okay, we'll just move on to this. We have already gone through this matrices once and where you can see them. So this is the dashboard view actually. Let me in fact take you to the live dashboard to show this to you once again. Okay, sorry for that. Okay, we'll get into this. This is the campaign we were trying to create. Let me describe this campaign first. Okay, before we proceed with this, just give me 1 minute. I guess we have a couple of questions regarding this. Okay, just a bit of break in between. Someone had asked what an FSN is. FSN is basically a Flipkart serial number, which is given to the product. I guess you can check it out in your listing file. You'll find that out there. And yes, this PPT will be shared. Okay, we'll get back to this once again. We were talking about the reports. First part of the report now, this is basically a dummy dashboard that we have with us, so not a lot of reports that will show out here. You will have in your dashboards, right, once you have created some campaigns, you'll find that you'll see these matrices like your ad spend, revenue, ROI, and all these key matrices overall for all your campaigns combined at the very top. Okay, this is set at lifetime by default. However, you can always choose a duration. So you can choose for yesterday, this week, last 30 days, or you can also custom choose a particular time period. Say, for example, I want to know only in the last week. Oh no, sorry, last week is anyway out there. No? So anyway, from 16th till this date, what is these matrices? I mean, how much I've spent, what has been my ROI and all that. And you can always choose that. You can enter and it will show you the values. As I said, this is a dummy dashboard, so you wouldn't have the actual values reflecting out here. Second part of the report, you'll have the same matrices shown out here as a graph on a day-to-day basis. In fact, I'm sorry I have not been able to show it out here right now. Let me, in fact, get back to the dashboard for this. Sorry for shuffling between the two. I actually want to show you as much as possible from the live dashboard. Since it's a dummy one, I can't. So anyway, so for example, it will show you for different days out here. We have selected ROI. You can select the matrices that you want to see, right? If you remember in the live dashboard, you had this. You can drop it down and you can select the matrices. You can look at actions. You can look at views, the units sold, ROI, whatever metrics you want to see, and you'll see them out here as a graph, right? For each day with the values out here. When you scroll on each of them, you'll see the values, right? This is the overall view for all your campaigns combined. You can get the same views when you get into each of your campaigns as well. In fact, even in each of the campaign, if you have multiple ad groups, you'll see the views in those ad groups as well. Okay, this gives you the overall picture of how it is working. Now, this is most important, and in many sellers, we do find that this is something they're not habituated to use. We often have a habit of looking at the overall performance of the campaign. Say out here, I see that, yeah, this campaign spent some 50,000, it's got an ROI of 10.3, everything looks hunky-dory, and we should just repeat the campaign. This is an important part, this download button out here, because this is what will give you the access to understand what actions you need to take for each of the product. So there's a drop down out here on the download. Again, I'll have to follow this deck for this because we don't have an active campaign created on this dummy seller account. So you just click out here and you'll get something called a performance report, right? There are also daily reports which will give you for each product that you're advertising, each day, what has been the performance. So how many actions, how many views, how many orders, right? What has been the budget that you spent, all those details at each day, at each product level. What I'm talking about right now is only the performance, which is consolidated, not as in each day, but at each product level, once again, for the history of the campaign, different kind of matrices that you see, right? When you download that performance report, you'll get that. Now, how do we read this? Again, this is a guidance. You guys can go through this table once again in detail. I'll just cover some of the small parts of it. For example, you will, so a couple of things that you need to check against each of the product. So, okay. So what we're saying is at the top, I saw, just to revise once again, at the top, I saw how my overall, all the products, all the campaigns are performing. Now I can get onto a campaign level and see how that particular campaign is performing. Now we are getting onto each product level in that campaign and see what actions we need to take. See what happens is, say for example, this particular campaign that we're talking about, right? Good amount of an ROI, 10.3, everything looks good, but can it get better, right? How do we take that kind of actions? So you look at each of the product. Now, each of the products, there are three, four things that you need to check. First is the actions. Actions, you remember, is the product page views, which you've got because of that ad. So how many people have clicked on that ad and seen the product description page of that, or the product page of that product, right? That's one. Second is the action rate. This is a field which is there in that data that you download against each of the product. You will see what is an action rate. Remember, action rate out here for people who are a little more tech savvy is basically what is a CTR, right? Because the way that I'm defining my action rate is action divided by views, right? Or basically clicks divided by views, which is your CTR, right? So action rate. And the third one is conversion. Conversion is easy. If you guys remember, it's basically the number of units that you have sold divided by the number of actions or PPV, right? Now, if you find that, again, so you'll find a lot of this high, low, and all these kind of things. What is high, what is low? To understand that, we also have a table out here, which will give you, again, the medium things for the conversion as well as at the action rate, right? Action rate and conversion. So for your each campaign, you can just refer back to this table in which category it falls, and hence decide whether for each of the product level, if that action rate is high or low, and similarly for conversion, right? You can decide that. For the actions, we have kept it pretty straight simple. Given the kind of conversion rates that we have, right? We recommend at least about 150 actions for a product. Now, why do we say so? See, actions basically is how many times a customer has clicked on that product and seen its details, right? And that is when it enters the consideration set of the customer. After that, he will purchase. Now, given the kind of conversions we have, until and unless a product has got at least 150 chances, that is, we have shown this product to at least 150 customers who have come and checked out the details of that product, right? We cannot really take a call whether the product has performed well or performed bad. Now, when you guys, and some of you guys, if you have actually checked this detailed report, I'm sure you would find out there would be certain cases where a particular product would have performed brilliantly, like an ROI of 20, I don't even 100 and all. It does tend to happen. And then you see that the number of actions out there is only 20 or 30. You remember the logic, right? We were talking about on the organic report, and this is a post-campaign report, PLA report completely, not the organic part. But what's your confidence, right? If a product has got only 30 views, out of that it has converted so many units, great, wonderful. But is it going to repeat that same kind of performance the next time? Maybe not. Getting my point, right? So that's how you have to take those decisions. You have to look at all of these three matrices for these products and then decide how do I want to play with this going forward, right? Often, in many cases, we have seen this that a seller complains that I had a wonderful performance in a particular campaign. I cloned this campaign or I put the same products in the next campaign and my performance tanks. Now, while there are some external factors, yes, like your competition might have launched something new, your competition might have drastically reduced the prices in something, or there can be some other factors, influencing that particular geographies from which your customers are buying, right? All that can influence that ROI, if possible. At the same time, you should look at the product level because that is something that is in your hand. The external factors will be there, and that is something that's not in our hands, right? But the product level, do check and understand, follow this particular tables and understand how is it that you need to act to it. In many cases, what happens is, let's say in the previous campaign, the overall campaign was good, but for some reason, the product performed better than the campaign before. Now, what we do is we take that particular campaign and we adjust the product level, right? We adjust the product level, we adjust the
Hi, sellers. I'm really sorry again. Some technical issues has come up, and because of which it has happened. Do not worry. We are back, and we will quickly go ahead and start everything. So kindly give us a minute over here. I really apologize for all the issues that has been happening and due to unfortunate circumstances. However, we would definitely go ahead and try that nothing as such happens anymore, and we successfully conclude this particular webinar. So please bear with us, and I really apologize beforehand. Give us another 3 seconds, and we would be back. Sellers, please let us know if you're able to hear us.
I guess now I'm audible. Okay, great. So you were saying that let's say one campaign would have performed brilliantly, but the next time when you clone that campaign or create a campaign with a similar kind of listings or the same listings, it doesn't tend to perform that well. And the reason once you get into the campaign, right, if you take into each of these products and how they perform, how many actions they have got, and all that, then probably you realize that there would be some products which hadn't got enough number of actions last time, but they performed brilliantly in the limited number of actions that they had. Next time, and if typically that actions is like less than 150, right? next time when you repeat them, and because the confidence level will be very high, but if you repeat them, it might so happen that they tag, right? So these are very critical things to note and check at the end of campaign, or definitely after a week or so of a campaign, to decide how your products are performing, right? So there are different kind of actions, not only on the next campaign or anything, but also areas where you can pause that particular product. Right? I guess you guys are familiar with pausing of the product. Okay, guys, one final check. Am I audible now? Please respond with a yes or no. Then we can continue with the rest of the PPT. Perfect. That seems good to go. Right then. Great. We proceed. Yes. So, say for example, let's pick up this particular line item, right? So let's say this product which has got greater than 150 actions, which means it has got enough chances to showcase itself, right? The action rate is low, which means if people uh, view the product, not many of them go to check out the product. So the problem is in the customer intent. However, once they do check out the product, the conversion is quite high, right? So typically, these are the kind of products which will give you high ROI along with the first line item, of course. The suggested action out here is that you put in a new campaign, right? Split on the basis of actions. So in this new campaign, you put in these products which are having lower number of actions out of this lot, right? I mean, different kind of campaigns for different kind of actions. So they say one group with, let's say 100 to 150 sort of actions, from 150 to, let's say 200 sort of actions, 200 to 500, stuff like that. Check the primary image, competitive pricing, product rating, etc. to increase your sales. Now, why do we say this, right? Different logics for it. Just think about this kind of product, right? So customers do not tend to click on the product image or the product ad to see the details of the product. However, when they go inside, they tend to buy it. So what are the things that the customer is seeing? At the product listing page, he is only seeing the primary image, he is seeing the price, he is looking at the rating, and the the title of the product is anyway pre-decided by Flipkart logic, right? So those are the kind of things that you need to check, which is the primary image, competitive price, and product ratings, to see why he is not going inside. And that is when you need to take an action. Got it? You take actions out there to ensure that the action rate gets better. Conversion is anyway high. Once they go inside, your sales will increase. Got it? So similarly for each of them, you've got different kind of action items. So what you need to check, what are the things that you need to do? Some of the action items are typical hygiene checks. Some of them are about how you can do it better in the next campaign, or if you can pause them in the current campaign, right? Check this out in detail later on at the end of this PPT. This is something, however, you should always do after the campaign is done, or at least after about a week or two of the campaign, to ensure that you get better results and incremental results through PLA. Right, let's proceed on to the next then. Okay, finally, smart ROI campaign type that we were talking about. I'll just play a small video out here for the smart ROI, and then we'll get into the different details of that. Yeah. Yeah, just give me a minute. Okay, just a minute on that. Yes, right. I'll get into this. So before I get into this set of FAQs, I'll just explain a little bit more on the smart ROI campaigns. Just give me a minute. Right. Cover this a bit later on. Right. So, smart ROI campaigns, as we said, there's the second type of campaign that we have other than the CPC. Now, this is quite different and a very unique solution that we have for our sellers, which is not present across the competition platforms. What this basically does is, rather than you selecting a CPC, which is basically a visibility bid, right? You select an ROI expectation out of that campaign. The system then chooses the bid for that campaign, chooses where to show this campaign to which potential customers and all, and effectively give you that particular ROI. So all that calculation, all those headaches are taken by the system to ensure that you reach the expected ROI that you have. Right? That's basically how the whole ROI, smart ROI tool works on. Right? We have to get this. So this is what the dashboard looks like under that smart ROI, as we said. I think I'll just take you onto the dashboard once and show it to you live. So we talked about this already. Create a campaign, select a couple of products. Next step. Here you go. Smart ROI. Similar to CPC, select the duration, right? Campaign budget, everything fine. This is where the difference comes in. Okay. So, for example, you have selected, whichever products, and then you get to choose a particular ROI. So, say for example, you say that I want an ROI of 10. Okay. Now, first part is according to your historicals, it will show you what is the ROI that you typically get in those different ad groups, right? It will also show you the highest and the lowest that you have ever got in your lifetime, right? Depending on that and depending on the kind of products you're putting in that particular ad group or advertising and your expected ROI, you can put up this expected ROI out here. Right? Again, same sort of stuff that we had for our CPC campaigns, where you can decide a budget limit if you want to, or you can put in the exclude keywords in case you want to on that. And then you just proceed with the next steps and the campaign starts, right? Now, what is critical out here is two things. First, remember that this is an expected ROI, okay? Do not mistake this with the CPC, two very different concepts. You're looking at the end ROI that the campaign, you want out of that campaign, right? The system will decide the CPC. That's a completely different construct. So this is the only part that you need to be careful about and select that ROI. Now, what might happen? What are the different fallouts that might happen out of it? The system, as we said, will try to optimize and give you that particular ROI. Say, for example, you have put an ROI of 10, the system will try to optimize and give you a 10 ROI. What happens if the system is not able to give you a 10 ROI, right? So what happens is system will try to give you that ROI through multiple mechanisms, and it will check how your campaign is performing for at least after the first 1,000 clicks, right? So the first 1,000 clicks, it gives it the chance in different, a low CPC and all, trying to understand whether it is performing or not. In case even after the 1,000 clicks, it finds that the campaign has been running for some time and still it is not even, let's say, even 75% of the expected ROI out of this campaign, right? In that case, it will pause the campaign, right? Which basically is like a stopgap mechanism for you. It's like a risk mitigation. So if it is not getting nearer to the target ROI of that particular campaign, it will stop it at a particular level after the first 1,000 clicks, so that you can then take a decision. You can then probably revise your ROI expectation out of these products, or you might choose key, what, in these products this does not work out, so you can abort that campaign, right, and create a fresh one with products that you think would work better on these kind of smart ROI campaigns. So you can take an action on your end. On this pause, right? So it will be indicated on the dashboard itself against the campaign at what stage it is right now, that whether it has been paused or not. I'll come to that, the snapshots of it, how this will be indicated to you, right? And then on the basis of that, you can take actions, right? Let me just get back to this presentation notes. Okay, now, a couple of usual questions that we have. For example, let's take this example. The lowest, okay, say this was the lowest was 0.8, right? And let's say the system is suggesting you something like a 0.8 or 0.9, and you say that, you know what, I want to run it at 3 ROI, or let's say I want to run it at 10 ROI, which is higher than the highest ROI that I've ever had. Will the system allow you? Yes, it will. When you put in a 10 out there, the system will probably just throw up a warning to you saying that, this is higher than what you have had in the last 3 months. Do you want to proceed? You can always choose to proceed with that. Again, if you put in a very low ROI, say something like a 3 or below, the system will say that, this ROI looks to be too low. Do you want to proceed further? Again, you can choose that. You can definitely proceed further. These are only warnings that the system will give you. It will not restrict you from exercising your right. Yeah, so this is the kind of warning that you'll have in case you have got a higher ROI out there. Now, one thing that we usually suggest, while on PLA, right, we have the minimum campaign budget of about 1,000. We suggest that for smart ROIs, you should put up at least about 5,000. The reason for this is, now anyway, there's some risk mitigation as we talked about. In case it is not performing, it will pause it after the first 1,000 clicks anyway. The other thing is, this also gives enough scope for that campaign to optimize up to a perfect level. If some of your sellers have tried this before, have put in a campaign for, let's say, like 1,000 rupees versus, let's say, 5,000 or 10,000 or higher amount, you'll potentially see that in most of the cases, a 1,000 rupee campaign will get exhausted very fast, right? And in that, the kind of opportunity that you're giving to those LITs, those products, may not be enough to get the optimum amount of sale out of them. So, which is why we typically suggest a higher amount of budget, at least for the smart ROI campaigns, so that the system gets enough opportunity to give you that kind of an ROI. Okay, these things we have already talked about. Okay, just one last thing. Once you put in the ROI, right, the expected ROI can be edited to be reduced, but it cannot be increased further. Okay, remember, so say for example, you put in 10, you can reduce it to 9, you cannot make it 11 tomorrow. Okay, that's one of the restrictions that we have. And on the dashboard, you would have seen this anyway, and the campaign type, it will show you whether it is a CPC campaign or a smart ROI campaign. Okay, this is the 1,000 click part that I've already discussed with you. Now I will just get on to, when you should be using the smart ROI, right? So if it is the top performing products, that is the best suited thing for smart ROI. This is something you would also find in some of the earlier tables that we were discussing, if you remember, that the top performing of the top converting products, is something that is best suitable. For visibility, this probably is not the best mechanism. So let me try and explain this a little bit to you. Think of it this way. If you typically get, let's say, an ROI of 4 to 5, okay, and you give up a smart ROI campaign saying that, I want an ROI of, let's say, 8 or 10, right? What happens is the system will realize that to give you that ROI, it will probably have to run you at a lower CPC and show to only some particular customers and maybe not to all of them, right? So whichever way the system optimizes. Now the point is, CPC is something the high. I think every seller understands this, right? Higher the CPC, higher is the visibility of that product. True. Now, if you keep it at a lower CPC, then probably your ROI can get better because you're spending less per click, but that will also give a hit on the visibility. You get it, right? So it's basically a balance. Any campaign is like a balance between the visibility and ROI. So if you want high visibility, then ROI can take a hit. Not necessarily it would. Again, if you want high ROI, then visibility can take a hit. Excuse me. Now, the thing is, during the festive season, and since we are talking about the festive season specifically today, a couple of things that we need to remember is, you guys know about what is the traffic jump, right? So we see a huge amount of traffic jump during this time, usually around 5 to 6 times, right? And you have a lot of high intent customers, which means that even the conversions increase for those customers, right? So people are in a hurry to buy these things, offers and everything. It's a, you know the kind of madness that a BBD comes with, right? Not only BBD, the whole of the festive season, in fact. Now, typically in the festive season, the conversion ratios typically go up higher because the intent of the customer is high to buy, right? And they end up converting much more faster. So typically your ROIs also tend to be higher. That's given in the same CPC range that we are talking about. Now what happens is, and I believe every seller understands this, and you'll find this even among your competitors and all, there's always a rush to capitalize on the traffic that is coming in. The reason is, this is like a once in a year the kind of traffic that comes in, right? This is the biggest event of the year, or for the complete industry as a whole, right? So this high intent traffic that is coming in for a short period. Getting visibility to that particular customer in that time period is what is the crucial part. Now, for a smart ROI campaign, one thing that might happen, and this is a call out that you need to remember, is that it can take a hit on the visibility, right? So what we would suggest is, uh, in this festive period, right? Until and unless it is some of your very, very high converting sort of product, like some of your very top performing products that you're putting it on smart ROI, you should try to put rest of the product, in fact, most of your campaigns on the CPC part, so that they can take advantage of this traffic and get you the maximum visibility and hence sales out of it. Because at that time, when every other seller, every other of your competitor is going to bid higher, right, and get that visibility, if you're running at a lower CPC for whatever reason, your visibility will be much lower. And this traffic is something which is there for a very short duration, right? So you need to take advantage of it. So anyway, that's one of the pointers from our side. Again, nothing stops you from doing otherwise. Yeah. Okay. A couple of new features that we have on the advertising tab, just a bit of a ready reckoner. Post that, we'll get into the question segment of it. First part, restarting your budget completed campaigns. Now, this has been an ask from many of us sellers for quite some time. This is something we have just started, in fact, last week. So what happens is, earlier you used to get, against a campaign which is completed, you get something like this completed, right? A completed campaign is something you cannot clone, is something that you cannot edit, right? I mean, yeah, you can clone and you can create a new campaign, but you cannot edit it and continue that particular campaign. Now, what typically happens is, and which is something that we also advise our sellers, that you should never let a good performing campaign end. See, a campaign reaches a particular run rate over time. You remember what we were talking before, that the first 2 to 3 days it takes to reach a particular baseline. Now, let's say a campaign has run for over 2 weeks or maybe a month and got a very good amount of sales run rate per day, right? You don't want to stop that campaign and create something new, which will then again have to build it up from grounds up, right? So what has happened right now is, rather than getting a completed status, what status you will get is a budget completed, right? On which you can still edit and then put in more budget and restart it once again, right? However, just remember one small point. If your campaign has an end date, right? So if there are campaigns, so there can be two kind of campaigns, right? Which is till budget exhaust and the one with an end date, right? If the campaign has an end date, then it will get completed, right? And then you cannot restart that button, that campaign again, because that was your expectation. Say if it is supposed to end on this Saturday, you cannot again restart it on the Sunday because you wanted it to end on Saturday. But if you have put it as till budget exhaust, right, then even after the budget exhaust, right, since you have not put in an end date to it, so your intent was to run it for a longer period till it is performing good for you, you can always come back, edit, put in more money in that campaign and restart it once again. This is a new feature that we have, right? Next part. This is something we had, so there was some confusion regarding this some time back. We had already corrected this about a month or so back. This is about pausing your non-performing listings, right? So in any of the campaigns, you can just get into a campaign, and so I'll just show this to you once. Let me just see. Again, this is a dummy select count, so I'm not sure if I'll be able to, but let me see if I can do that. So if you enter, no, I cannot. I cannot. Okay, I'll just show you once. So if you enter any of these campaigns, right, if it is a live or older campaign, not a draft like I have out here, since there's a dummy account, if you enter this campaign, you'll see a couple of, what do you call it, ad groups, right, within that campaign page. If you click on that ad groups, you'll have a page where you'll have all these different products which you have advertised at each line item like this, which will show you the stock views, all that stuff. On the right hand side, you'll have a modify option, which will have a pause and restart function, right? So you can go and pause an individual product. So when you use it, say for example, the campaign is running and you find out of, let's say, the 5 products I'm advertising, one of them is not performing well. So rather than stopping that whole campaign, creating a new campaign again for those 4 products, what you do is you just go and pause that one product which is not performing. And the campaign still continues for the rest of the products which are performing. Yeah. Search by SKU ID, this is something we have already seen. This is a new feature that we have put in. This is for your ease of selecting the products at the manual method of selecting FSNs. Okay, this daily campaign performance is something that we were talking about some time back. So this is on that download arrow, you remember, on which we were talking about this overall performance report, which we discussed regarding the actions, action rate, and conversion and all that. You also have something called a daily performance report, an option out there, which we discussed. We'll have for each product each day, what are these matrices. So this will help you track, for example, if there's a variation from one day to the other. For example, does my campaign perform better on a weekend versus a weekday? Does it perform, does it perform better? Let's say you're running a campaign between BAU days going up to BBT, right? So how does that jump between each? So, whichever way you want to analyze, you'll get all those kind of data. Okay, right. This is the last part, which is about the smart ROI part. So this is what will happen, where if after 1,000 clicks, it finds that it is not able to get up to even like a 75% of those of the expected ROI. So say for out here, I'm sorry if this doesn't have the heading, you have to remake this. So the expected ROI is 14, and the campaign has only got up to a 10.1, right? And it has already crossed the 1,000 mark of actions, right? Then what happens is it will give you this status, that is paused ROI not met. You'll see the status against that particular ad group, right? You can then go inside and then probably revise this ROI expectation so that it starts off again, right? Okay. Okay, so for special tips, a couple of things that you should do. First, identify the strategic products that you want to advertise. Now, what do you mean by strategic products? I'm sure by now you'll have some expectations that these are the products which will give me the highest amount of sales, or which I want to showcase the most during this product things, right? Or things which you have just launched because of this festive season. So identify those products, ensure that you create campaigns on them, right? Plan campaigns well in advance, right? Now, create, what we'll always advise is create your campaign with a date in the future, right? Keep them created so that at that point of time they start off. Now remember the campaigns, right? Once you create them on your dashboard, it takes a certain amount of time till they come live on the portal, right? Remember before these festive periods, say like the day before BBT and all, there'll be thousands of sellers who will be putting in, lakhs and lakhs of products in just a couple of hours, maybe in the last, 5-6 hours. The best thing that you can do is keep your campaign planned from before, ensure that at this particular time and this particular day it starts off, so that you don't get caught up in that rush, and so that your campaign does not get delayed, right? So there are there could be multiple, issues out of that rush. So just ensure that you're safe on that ground. Now, third part, during the sale time, ensure that you monitor the campaigns, right? And if there is budget required at any point of time, do put in that budget. A word of caution out here, and just to understand this, the reports that come in, right? So the number of units that you see and the conversion numbers out there in this, all the reports that we're talking about, there's a 4 to 5 hours delay out there, right? So the reports that you see is what has happened about 4 to 5 hours back, right? So be careful and ensure that your campaigns are running at that point of time, and that you're taking a good amount of look about how your campaigns are performing on a ready basis, just like you look at how many sales has happened, how many packages have been shipped, and all that, right? Ensure you check your campaigns also in that same manner. Now, keep a tab on the winning bid range. This is important because, as I told you, come the festive season, the whole ecosystem will become such that a lot of your competitors, everyone will be trying to bid pretty high so that they can get the best of the traffic for them, right? So keep a check on that, and check on the kind of visibility that you're getting. Accordingly, make adjustments as required. Okay, we'll now start off with the Q&A then, and I'll just open the Q&A part. Let's take questions. Okay. Please do start off with writing on the questions. I'll just start off with the ones that we have right now. Right.
Start from the top.
Yeah, that's okay. So I think one of the questions, where will I get the presentation? On the SLC. You'll get this. This will be updated, and you can check out the presentation.
They'll receive an email after that.
Okay, so this is already updated. You'll receive an email with the link within an hour. Okay, one of the questions that we had, if we pause the campaign for a particular product, then what happens to the budget I had allocated to it? Okay, let me get this question straight. I understand that you'd have, multiple products in this particular campaign, and you've only paused one single product out of it. In which case, it doesn't matter, because then the budget is allocated for the rest of the products. In case you're pausing one campaign completely, then the budget is frozen for that campaign, right? When you abort it, this money then comes back to your wallet within the next 2 to 3 working days. But as long as it is paused, the money is still frozen in that particular campaign. It is not used, the campaign is not running, but it doesn't return back to your wallet until and unless you have aborted it. Yes, there was a question from Parth. Yes, we do advise that for your new products and for the new launches, you should give them at least about 2 weeks, not only for new launches, for any of the campaigns, in fact. For a campaign, you should give it at least about 2 weeks to give you the best of its performance, and that's for the optimum performance. The point is, if you give it lesser time, it may not give you the best performance that it could have given you, right? Understand that while we typically tend to look at a very short-term sort of gain, right? Advertising is something which helps you gain customers and increase your visibility, mind share in the customer's mind, right, over a much longer period of time. So when you look at it for a very short time, one is for the technical reasons, also for any kind of advertising, right? It doesn't tend to work to its optimum capacity. Okay, Tarun Jain has one question. How can we check the product is coming in first 1 or 2 pages? Tarun, honestly, I think this is a very good question, and I'm sure a lot of sellers would have this particular query. Okay, you see, it is extremely dynamic, right? The organic as well as the PLA part, these are all real-time things which depends on a couple of factors like the conversion and CTR and all that. The only method I would suggest is to go on the dashboard and check. Say, for example, if you're selling watches, use a very generic term like a watches search, right? And see where your products are coming up, if they're coming up on the first 1 or 2 pages or not. And that is the best method of checking it. And remember, in a sale period, something like that, that can also change pretty fast, right? Because this is real time, and while you're taking actions, depending on what is your visibility, remember there are 1,000 other sellers who are also doing the same, right? So this is a competition. You guys know it. This is a race where, well, at the end there's gold in PLA, but yeah, there's a lot more on the business front as well. Yeah. Okay, let me try and see a couple of more questions that we might have had before. Okay, Karan Nissa had asked how to delete existing campaigns. Well, you do not delete, but yes, you can abort them, and that's as good as delete. Yeah. Okay, there was a question from Deepak Kumar. Please give the full form of ROI. Okay, ROI is return on investment. We do have the formula within this PPT. Do please check out. Okay, this is a very interesting question from Parth Mehta. Um, sorry, my apologies. This is from Abhi Singh. Let me just read out the question for you guys. I think this is something a lot of you would be interested in. If a same product is running campaign by different sellers, then who will be charged for the click and what happens to the product? Let's take an example. Say, for example, let's say I have got an iPhone, right? And iPhone is now being advertised by, let's say, seller A and seller B. It's absolutely the same product. Let's call it iPhone 10, and put the seller's advertising. Now, what happens is, you remember in PLA, right? You create ads at an LID level. So LID is basically a unique listing ID, which is a FSN cross seller, right? So both of these sellers for the same FSN or for the same product will have two very unique LIDs, and you're running campaigns on them. What will happen is there will be two ads of the same product which will be shown, right? Only the ranking of them will be different, right? So I've got different slots. So let's say like the 4th, 14th, 20, 24th, or so on and so forth. One of the ads might come up, let's say, on the 4th slot. Maybe the other ad is coming up on the 20th slot. Now, how do I say they're different? If seller A is paying for an ad, remember in PLA, which seller is running an ad gets the buy button by default on that product, on that ad, right? So if seller A ad is coming up on 4th slot, out there he will have the buy button. On 20th slot, if seller B ad is coming, then he will have the buy button on that particular ad, right? But these are two different ads running on two different LIDs as the system, as I told you, right? At the back end, LIDs are different, no matter even if the product and the FSN is same. So this will be treated as two completely different ads. Okay, let me check out a couple of more questions. I see a lot of participation in the question just in the last 1 or 2 minutes. That's good. Okay, couple of questions out here. One, Parth Mehta, he has asked for the contact details for any further queries. I'm sure we can share a particular, so we will share a particular contact detail in the mail post this. The email from where we received an invite. Yeah. Yeah, okay. So I think we can do it this way. I was just checking with Manisha. You can just respond to the email from which you have received the invite and we'll take it up from there. No issues on that. Tarun Jain had a question. What if smart ROI ads is not working properly? Well, Tarun, I'll need to understand probably in a more specific basis as to what you mean by not working properly. However, if there's a concern, again, you can just write onto this particular email from where you got this, and we'll definitely look into it on a case-to-case basis. Is there a provision to add keywords to the campaigns by Sridhar? No, we do not have a provision to add keywords to a campaign. As we said that the keywords will be selected automatically as per whatever details is there in the catalog file of that particular product. However, there's an option to exclude keywords. So if it's the other way around, if you do not want to showcase your products in particular keywords, you can always put them up out there with a comma separator, and the system will take that up. Okay, so there's one Dilip Gupta. So what he says is that most of my SKUs are top in the visibility. There are new products coming in too. Please suggest the best way to make use of the PLS. Well, first, Dilip, I think for the new products is something we've already discussed. Definitely, you should invest in terms of visibility for those products. On the other end, what I'll suggest is please to check out the traffic report that we were referring to. See, often we will have a lot of products. I mean, if you're a good top seller and you have had some of your good products, I'm sure some of your products will be there on the top visibility. And we will never suggest you to create ad on that because it just really doesn't make sense, right? But do check out the conversion data for your products. There often is a big belly, for any of the portfolio of the sellers. While you have a tail, yes, which we are all aware of, there's a head we are all aware of, but this belly is something that we miss out. Often, a lot of these high converting, high potential products are lost out in this belly. Probably once you check out at each product level in this conversion data, maybe you will figure out some products that are not new launches. It's something that you've had for some time, but they are potential products that their conversions are good if they get the PPV, but maybe visibility is what is the issue for them. So probably you can look into those products as well. Okay, one of the questions that we have is how to increase visibility. One of the most straightforward answers I'll give you, if you've already located the product on which you want to increase visibility and followed, all the things that we've discussed out here, best method for you is the CPC part, right? Choose the CPC accordingly. You'll get to know which is the winning bid range that is out there. You can place your CPC in that winning bid range. Or if you want to outbid your competition, that's also something that you can do. And that is, I think, one of the best shots at increasing the visibility or getting the most prime visibility for your products. Okay, there's a question about if you want to pause the campaign for some time by Richa. Well, Richa, yes, it's absolutely possible. You can pause the campaign and then again you can restart it at any time which you feel. So that modification, that thing that we showed, that pause and restart function, that is there and that is open for you to edit at any point of time. Okay, this is an interesting question. How will it affect a product if it is advertised in different campaigns? Will my conversions increase? This is very interesting. In fact, some of the sellers do try this, but I would advise you not to. You see, when you're advertising the same product across different campaigns at the same point of time, what you're basically doing is you're showing the same ad, I mean, the same product as an ad in multiple slots, right? Now, think about it this way. If a customer has seen that product on the, let's say, the fourth slot and decided not to buy it, you think if he sees it on the 40th slot, he might buy it. The chances are less, right? What typically happens is burning just goes up. So you'll be spending a lot more because people might just, if they have missed one slot, they might go and check out the other one. But typically, we haven't seen a lot of conversions increasing because of that. So I would really advise against that. Okay. One of the follow-up questions from Tarun. As you suggested in PPT, we need to segregate ads on the basis of action rate, learning from report. Is it okay to run ads only on 20-30 products? It is okay, Tarun. It doesn't matter. In fact, the highest number of products that you can put in a campaign is 2000, but nothing stops you from putting in 20 to 30 products. A bit of a correction out there. Action rate is one of the factors. I think the primary part is action. I don't know if that is what you meant by this, but be careful. Action is the primary part. You need to check if the number of actions that the product has got is higher than 150 or lower to 150. That's the first check. Action rate comes in after that, right? This is an interesting question by Parth. If the smart ROI gets paused, will the balance left budget get returned to wallet? No, right? Remember, when a campaign gets paused, the budget is actually frozen out there. right? So when you see that a campaign is paused, when a smart ROI campaign is paused, or any, I mean, yeah, other campaigns obviously you'll be pausing on your own, please take an action onto it. Decide what you want to do. Let's say if you have put in 10 as an ROI and the system is saying, you know what, I cannot give you 10. I think what max I can give you is 6. That will also show out there, right? How much it is giving you. You can please change the ROI expectation immediately. If you think, no, this is uncompromisable for me, I cannot go down below 10 on this, then abort the campaign. Get the money back into your wallet, which will take another 2 to 3 days once you abort the campaign, and then create a fresh campaign with fresh list of listings and set up ROI expectations accordingly. But do take an action once you see that pause status. Okay, this is one question, and I guess a lot of sellers will have this. If I'm advertising, say, 10 to 15 products in a campaign, then what must be the expected budget and the expected duration of the campaign? Very commonly asked questions. First part on the duration of the campaign. See, the duration of the campaign is something that is not related to the number of products that you're selecting. Duration of the campaign will be depending on your strategy. For example, you might, so let me put it this way. You see, by a very normal psyche, right, what typically happens is that the customers will wait for BBD to come in, right? So many of your sellers, you might see that right now the sales is a bit low. Customers are, I mean, there's a lot of traffic that is coming in, but they're not buying. And then probably I should just do my ads during BBD. What happens on the back end, however, a lot of customers tend to add their products to their wish list during this time, right? To their carts and to their wish lists. Now, there are a lot of sellers who actually take advantage of that. So what they do is they run campaigns on the pre-BBD stage, right? Typically, it is quite obvious and you can understand. During that time, you'll find that the ROIs are really not good, right? And you might really feel demotivated, why should I really run this campaign? But what happens is once BBD sets in, those same customers, they end up buying those products because it has been in their consideration set before, right? When they were looking out searching for those products. So the ROI of those kind of campaigns which run pre-BBD and extending into the BBD suddenly shoot up when the BBD starts. And by the time BBD is over, they tend to get very high good amount of ROI than the ones which has just started off even during BBD. Now, why I gave you this example, right? The point that you said that the expected duration of a campaign. Now, this is a strategy. Some sellers follow this strategy. But does that mean you will be following it? It depends on you. Right? I really can't comment on the duration of it. So it completely depends on you. Second part about the expected budget. That's a key point, in fact. Expected budget is important because you want to ensure that you do not run out of budget during that periods, right? Now, this again depends on each category and the traffic of it. Say, for example, today the number of customers who would be searching for a t-shirt on the platform is definitely not the same as the number of customers who would be searching for, let's say, a jar, right, in some other category. So the only method is once you put in the products, right, and start the campaign with whatever budget you're expecting. See what is the run rate that it is taking. If the I mean once probably if you run it for the first 1 or 2 days, you will get an idea of what is the kind of run rate it is taking per day. As long as you have not put in an end date to that campaign, you can always add in more budget and ensure that it runs for a longer time. On the other hand, if you find that the campaign is not doing very well and you get into the products and see that none of the products are doing well, for example, then you don't continue the campaign. If some of the products are doing well, then you just continue with them and putting more budget, right? I think that would be the best method of going forward for this. Yeah, new products and old products, follow question of the same. Uh, if it is old products, then yes, probably the budget should be higher. For the new products, it is really tough to say. You see, some of the new products would be in-season products. So even if they're new and they do not have a history, there might be a good amount of demand for them. See, typically, these answers probably I could have given you a much more straighter answer if it hadn't been the festive season. See, since this is a festive season, right? The traffic and the kind of demand for each product goes completely different from what it is in a BAU time. Okay, guys, I think we will close it here. Uh, yeah, in case of any further queries, please do write back on this emails and we will definitely get back to you. Please do take a look at this PPT later on. Do use the different suggestions that we have had, the different tables that we have given out here. And all the best to you. A very happy festive season for you and hope to see you showered with gold this particular festive season. Best of luck, guys.
Thank you so much, Iman, and thank you, Silas, for joining today's webinar. Please look forward for the upcoming webinars that we have planned for you specifically to prepare you for this upcoming Big Billion Day festival. So keep an eye on your SLC upcoming event section to know more. Thank you so much and have a beautiful day ahead. Take care. Also, sellers, before we go ahead and proceed, close everything, I would quickly like to know how would you rate this entire webinar? Do not worry if your answers were, if your queries that you have posted were not responded. You can certainly go ahead and write to us so that we can look into it and respond to you accordingly. Thank you so much. Once this is done, we would be wrapping up. Thank you.